Hey, Big Dave the Middle Age Gamer, and this is the last of the Diablo 4 class guys that we will be going through, and this is the Barbarian. Remember when I said before that the Barbarian class wasn't as straightforward as it appears to be? Well, there's reason for that. As a fighting class, let's get my bearings here. As a fighting class, he isn't really beholden to any particular thing because everything is melee. Not like the rogue where you can go, ranged or melee. He is literally all melee. Matter of fact, he's so melee he carries 4 weapons on him at all times. You've got a two-handed bludgeoning weapon, a two-handed slashing weapon, and then 2 single-hand weapons of your choice. The thing about the Barbarian is that he's so concentrated on his melee weapons that he has expertise levels. Alright, you see? After level 5, you start gaining experience using the weapons you have. And obviously it gets harder to level as you go on. So, in that respect, we'll get to that in a bit later. But before we get to the skills and everything, I do want to touch on something rather important, and that is his class quest. Alright? Here we are in Ghost Glen at the beginning of Act 2. Alright? His class quest is all the way in the dry steps in Act 3. So, the beautiful thing about Diablo 4 is it's the first Diablo that is truly sandboxy. So you can go wherever the hell you want. If I wanted to, as long as I, walk accordingly, I can go here if I want to. If I really wanted to. I just have no reason to right now. So here, I had to have a reason to cut basically from... Where did I end up starting? I started in Kyovashad, made my way to back to Nevesk. This is where you start, if you remember my beta video. Okay? If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It covers all the beginnings, and because the beta only really covered the fractured peaks here. So I had to basically go this way, all the way down, until I got here. Pain in the ass. But what that got us is this expertise page, but it does more than just that. It allows you to select a technique. And what this does is any bonus you get from your expertises, if you choose one, it will, pardon the expression, bleed over to anything else you use. So, in this respect, my primary weapon, if you look at my skills, and that's another thing to cover. We'll get to that in just a sec. But if you notice, it auto-selects to my two-handed axe. So going back to that, since I'm using two-handed axe, you don't want to choose a technique of the same weapon you're primarily using, because that's redundant. You don't get any double bonuses. So choose something else. So in this case, I chose two-handed sword, because not only is it one of my other strongest ones, but considering the build I'm using, it actually benefits. So you always have to keep that in mind when you do. Okay, now going back to the weapons themselves and your skills. Alright? We're going to use the basic, because it's great. Because it's a great example here. As you see, you can choose which weapons you want to use for certain skills. I have a PC version, so I'm sure it's going to be different on the console, because y'all don't have a middle mouse button. Yeah, the mouse wheel, if you push it down, you can choose between what weapon style you want to use. I normally leave it on auto select, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay. So now with all the nuances out of the way, so now you understand why things are done in a certain way with the Barbarian. We're going to go over the different builds you can do with said Barbarian. We're going to start with what I already currently have. And remember what I said in previous videos. You base it based off of the goodies you got. I'm looking at my legendaries. I got, okay, Barrier's always nice. I got a bleeding, direct damage against bleeding enemies. And then another bubble. Alright, so protection and bleeding, okay? So bleeding means I made a bleeding build. Yes, bleeding is a thing, pretty much only available to the Barbarian. Actually, it is only available to the Barbarian. That and Berserker. So Barbarian gets two exclusive abilities that nobody else can get. The ability to bleed out your enemies and the ability to snap and go apeshit on everything. Alright, so we're doing the bleeding. Let's go over the skills. So, basic skills, you know how that goes. Here's your bleeder, it's called Flay. I know we're not talking Bobby. Generates 9 fury, deals 59 damage, inflicting 429 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Looking at the modifiers here, Flay has a 10% chance to make the enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds, double this chance when using a two-handed weapon. And then your optionals, I chose Combat Flay, Bobby's cousin. When Flay deals direct damage to an enemy, you gain 3% damage reduction and 56 thorns for 3 seconds. This can stack up to 4 times. And which to me is absolute must if you're playing a melee character. Thorns is a godsend. The other option was Battle Flay, another cousin. When Flay deals direct damage to an enemy, they take 10% increased bleeding damage from you for the next 3 seconds. Which is also incredibly useful, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I just prefer the extra protection. That's just me. Looking at the other basics, you have Lunging Strike, Dash, and Frenzy. 2 of these are weapon specific, the other one is not. Alright, now we move to the core skills. There's only one bleed. It was easy to spot which ones are the bleeders because they're red. Yay, yay, cherry flavor. Gotta love that blood. Alright, this is Rend. Core skill, 33 fury cost. Cleave enemies in front of you, dealing 116 damage, dealing 935 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Let me back up for just a second. Let's talk about Fury for a second. My ball of Fury, I ain't got nothing. Here's the thing. The Barbarian is the only class whose primary resource will actually decrease over time. Alright? The Druid doesn't go anywhere unless you use basic attacks or other Fury spirit generating abilities. And the other two spellcasters and even the rogue's energy will go back up over time. Barbarian's the only one that will actually go down over time, which to me is a real pain in the ass. Alright, so let's just get that out of the way there. Alright, going back to Rend, told you what it does. Looking at its modifiers, enhanced Rend, dealing direct damage with Rend extends the duration of vulnerability on enemies by 2 seconds, which is really nice. Then you have your optionals. I chose Furious Rend, which has direct damage granting 4 Fury per enemy hit up to a max of 20. So Fury Generation, absolutely, or in this case, Fury Recycling. And then you have Violent Rend, which deals 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, which isn't bad in and of itself, but yeah, I got this thing about trying to keep resources replenished. That's just me. Alright, now we get to defensive skills, and you gotta have one. Okay? It's just that simple. I chose Iron Skin. Cooldown 13.5 seconds. Steal yourself, gaining a barrier that absorbs 70% of your missing life for 5 seconds. Alright? Your modifiers, Enhanced Iron Skin. It absorbs 12% more of your maximum life. Alright, so this starts off pretty low, and between this and this, you get it up pretty high. That didn't sound right. Alright, looking at the optionals, Tactical Iron Skin. While Iron Skin is active, heal for 10% of the barrier's original amount as life per second. So, yay, healing. Yeah. The other option is Strategic Iron Skin, which also grants 15% base life as Fortified. Double this amount of mass while below 50% life. Which isn't bad either. But I like healing better. Alright. Let's take a look at the other options and see why I didn't choose it. We have Ground Stomp. 15.48 seconds. Smash the ground, dealing 59 damage, and stunning surrounding enemies for 3 seconds. That's not gonna lie, that's not bad. Alright, let's look at the modifiers. Enhanced Group Stomp, Ground Stomp increases the duration by a second. Then you have your optionals, Tactical Ground Stomp, which generates 25 Fury, nice. And then Strategic Ground Stomp, which reduces the cooldown of your ultimate skill by 1 second for each enemy damaged. Not gonna lie, it's not bad. My problem with this is twofold. One, longer cooldown than Iron Skin, and two, it's not going to have a long enough range where distant enemies are going to really be affected by it, so no. Alright, let's look at the next one, Rallying Cry. 24-second cooldown, shnikes. Bellow a Rallying Cry, increasing your movement speed by 30%, resource generation by 40% for 6 seconds, and nearby allies for 3 seconds. You ready to see why I didn't choose this one? If you're playing a group-based character, this is a great one to have. If you're playing solo, not so much. Looking at the modifiers, Enhanced Rallying Cry grants you Unstoppable while active, which ain't bad. And then you have your optionals. Beyond your basic modifier, this is Tactical Rallying Cry, generates 20 Fury and grants you an additional 20% resource generation. Yes. And then you have Strategic Rallying Cry, which grants you 10% base life as a Fortify. While it's active, you gain additional 2% base life as Fortify each time you take or deal direct damage. Which ain't bad. But, again, as solo, not so much. But yeah, if you're in a group, this ain't bad to get. And then you have Challenge and Shout. Another Shout, 24-second cooldown, taunts nearby enemies and gain 40% damage reduction for 6 seconds. Shouts generally by nature are meant for multiplay. If you're playing by yourself, you really have no need for a taunt. Alright, moving on to the modifiers for this. Enhanced Challenge and Shout. While Challenge and Shout is active, gain 20% bonus maximum life. Okay, not bad. And then looking at your optionals, you have Technical Challenge and Shout. While it's active, you gain 3 Fury each time you take damage. Okay. Then you have Strategic. While it's active, you gain Thorns equal to 30% of your maximum life. Alright, not bad. Good tank stuff. Alright, moving on. Now we have Brawling Skills. And for this bleed build, I chose Charge. And we'll get to the other reasons why I didn't choose any of the others in just a bit, but there are no bleeders here, obviously. This one allows you to become unstoppable and rush forward, pushing enemies with you, and then swinging through them for 219 damage and knocking them back. I think you figure out why I chose it here. Unstoppable is nice. Freedom of movement is a wonderful thing. Now looking at the modifiers, Enhanced Charge, enemies who are knocked back into terrain by charge take 94 damage and are stunned for 3 seconds. Ah, hell yeah. And then looking at the optionals, I chose Mighty Charge, damaging enemies with charge makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. The other one, which isn't bad either, but I like the vulnerability better. Power Charge, reduce charge's cooldown by 3 seconds if it knocks back any enemy into terrain. I'd rather, go with more of a guarantee. You don't have to worry about knocking things into terrain for the vulnerability. Alright, looking at other options. We got Kick. Alright. 2 charges for a 15.63 second cooldown, so about 2/3. For a powerful kick that deals 112 damage and knocks back enemies in front of you. The enemies are knocked back into terrain, take additional damage and are stunned for 3 seconds, which isn't bad. The only problem I have with it is it's got absolutely no range. You're an up-close fighter anyway, you've got enough stuff that's got no range, you don't need anything else. Try to get some better range when you can. That's why I don't like Kick. Looking at the modifiers, Enhanced Kick, damaging enemies makes them vulnerable for 4 seconds, which is not bad. Then you look at the options, Mighty Kick deals more damage to enemies as they collide with while being knocked back. Enemies damaged this way are knocked down for 2 seconds, so basically create your own mosh pit. And then you have Power Kick. If it damages an enemy, it consumes all of your Fury, deals an additional 125 damage per 10 Fury spent. Kick no longer knocks back enemies. So it's a vicious kick but it is what it is. Then we have Warcry, another shout. Group players, pay attention. Bellow a mighty Warcry, increasing your damage dealt by 16.5% for 6 seconds and nearby allies for 3. Alright, looking at the modifiers, grant you Berserking for 4 seconds. Hello, Berserker! Looking at the modifiers, Power Warcry. If at least 6 enemies are nearby when you cast Warcry, your damage bonus is increased by an additional 10%. Or Mighty Warcry, grants you 15% base life as a Fortify. And let's just read what Berserking does real quick. Grants 25% increased damage and 15% increased movement speed. This effect lasts up to 5 seconds. Short burst, but you can get a lot of damage and movement out of that right quick, which is nice. The other one I would actually consider taking is Leap. 16.45 second cooldown, so it's a little longer than Charge. But you leap forward and slam down, dealing 203 damage and knocking back enemies surrounding you on impact. While I like that, while it doesn't give you Unstoppable, what I do like about it is that it's more of an area effect. Pretty sweet. Looking at the modifiers for this, Enhanced Leap. If Leap does not damage any enemies, its cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds, so if you miss, you don't get punished for it as much. Let's look at the modifiers. Power Leap. If Leap damages at least one enemy, gain 40 Fury, which is nice. The other is Mighty Leap. Enemies damaged are slowed by 50% for 5 seconds. Although, honestly, that Unstoppable thing makes me think I might just stick with Charge for any build. It's pretty universally useful. Alright, now we have Weapon Mastery skills. We got a Bleeder. Rupture. 9.68 second cooldown. Skewer enemies in front of you, dealing 81 damage, and rip your weapon out, damaging enemies for their total bleeding amount, and removing all bleeding damage from them. Pretty nasty, but it's a great way to finish off an enemy with a large health pool that's bleeding out. Instead of just waiting for them to bleed out and they can beat on you for it, and just finish the job right there. Alright, Enhanced Rupture is the modifier. Ripping your weapon out of enemies during Rupture causes an explosion that deals 100 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. So basically you explode the critter and make others bleed too, which is really nice. Looking at the optionals, I chose Fighter's Rupture. Hitting at least one enemy with Rupture heals you for 15% of your maximum life. Okay. And the other one I chose, I didn't choose, is Warrior's Rupture. Hitting enemies with Rupture increases your attack speed by 20% for 4 seconds. I like me some heal. And when we get to the other builds, we will take a look at the other choices. Now we get to the ultimates. I chose Call of the Ancients because for a bleeding build, it's the only one that makes any sense. And we'll get to the other ones as we go along. 48.38 second cooldown, calls upon 3 ancients to aid you in battle for 6 seconds. One leaps the enemy, one does a whirlwind, and the other upheaves the ground, and they all do a bunch of damage. Let's look at the modifiers real quick. We'll call the ancients as active, gain 10% bonus attack speed and 10% increased damage. Hell yeah. Then you have your last option, and then you have your last one, Supreme Call of the Ancients. No, it's not a pizza. Each of the ancients gains additional power. Corlick gains 10 fury each time. You gain 10 fury each time he hits an enemy with his frenzy. Talik slows the enemies for 1 second when damaged by his whirlwind. I wonder if that stacks. It doesn't say one way or the other. And then the other Madoc, I think that's how you pronounce it. 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds when using upheaval. Alright, now we get to the key passives, and of course we're bleeding. Build, you have Gushing Wounds. Causing an enemy to bleed, you have a chance equal to your critical strike chance to increase the bleed amount by 100% of your critical strike damage bonus. Overpowering a bleeding enemy creates an explosion that inflicts 68 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Overpowering deals bonus damage based on the sum of your current life and fortified life. I don't have any fortify, so the whole premise is to try and keep myself as healthy as possible. Overpowering, you always have a 3% chance per attack to get it. Alright. Now, moving on. Now that we've done a lot of splaining, let's play around with it a little bit.
The attack on the manor has left many...
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's not the kind of video we're doing here. Okay, so you notice he immediately grabbed his two-handed axe. Bleed builds rely only on slashing weapons, so that two-handed mace I got, I am never going to use. And anytime I look for a better one-handed weapon, it's going to be a sword or an axe. Come on, buddies. Gotta be someone around here. Oh, I heard something. There we go. You notice that, when you torture yourself, look at the health bars, okay? There's the iron stick, you notice how bar turns blue. As you notice, I heal once I use the iron skin again.
I don't have enough fury.
Okay? So you get the rough idea on how the solo stuff works. With how the bleeding works. Alright? Haven't shown you charge yet. I also have not shown Call of the Ancients. Alright, that's Call of the Ancients. You'll see charge. That's embarrassing.
I'm out of fury.
Not gonna lie, this is not... Okay, there's a good representation of charge. This is not my favorite build out there, but it's the stuff I got, so it's the build I'm going with for now. But, what if we just really hate the bleed break? You just don't want to deal with it, you're just going to sell or scrap your legendary items and go with something else. What else is there? Well, I'm going to show you. And to be fair, I thought about it myself. Alright? So we're going to refund everything. We're going to start anew. We're going to start with the build that I actually started with, so to speak. And it was primarily a berserking build, so we're going to start with the basic lunging strike. Alright, that generates 9 fury, lunge forward, strike an enemy for 358 damage. Really nice because that's some movement for you. You know me, I love my freedom of movement. Looking at the primary modifier, enhanced lunging strike deals 30% increased damage and heals you for 2% maximum life when it damages a healthy enemy. Yes. Alright, and we look at the optionals. We have battle lunging strike, also inflicts 170 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Which, I mean, I guess that's fine if you don't want to deal with Flay, but it doesn't deal with nearly as much bleeding damage as Flay does. Or you have combat lunging strike, where critical strikes with it grant you berserking for a second and a half. I'd rather have that. Alright, let's look at the cores. We have Whirlwind, the channeled core, which means you hold down your core skill button, and it will drain 23 fury per second, rapidly attack surrounding enemies for 134 damage. The other options are hammer. Well, you know what? Let's look it up. Heal. It's a core. Tear into the ground with your weapon and fling debris forward, dealing 487 damage. Which isn't bad, but I'm not going to go with it. And I'll tell you why. It's unidirectional. Only works forward. I like Whirlwind better, even though it's more of a Fury Glut, because it's omnidirectional and you just swing everywhere. It's great for when you're surrounded and you just slaughter everything around you. besides, if we're going to stick with charge, we already got a forward, right? So let's look at the modifiers here for enhanced upheaval. Upheaval is a 20% chance to stun all enemies and damages for 2.5 seconds. Not bad. Looking at the optionals. Violent upheaval. If upheaval damages at least 2 enemies, you gain berserking for 2 seconds, increased to 3 if it damages at least 4 enemies. The option is furious upheaval. Dealing direct damage to an enemy with the skill that is not upheaval causes your next upheaval to deal 3% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times. Okay, well, let's look at whirlwind. Alright. Love that spinning blade of death. Let's look at them. As I said, rapidly attacks surrounding enemies for 187 damage in 23 per second. Modifier, enhanced whirlwind. Gain 1 fury each time whirlwind deals direct damage to an enemy, or 4 against elites. Yes please. Basically, if you're fighting a bunch of elites, this thing never drains. Alright, looking at our options, we have violent whirlwind. After using whirlwind for 2 seconds, whirlwind deals 30% increased damage until it is cancelled. Or we have furious whirlwind. While using a slashing weapon, whirlwind also inflicts 40% of its base damage as bleed. Nah, we're gonna go with violent. No berserking there, but oh lordy, that's fun. Okay. We've already covered this. Iron Skin for the win. Healing. Charge. Enhanced charge. With vulnerability. We covered all that. Now we're looking at the weapon mastery. The options are Death Blow and Steel Grasp. I'm going to go with Death Blow as opposed to Steel Grasp. Steel Grasp throws out a trio of chains that deals 144 damage and pulls in enemies. Problem with that is, between lunge and charge, I already have enough movement. Adding this is just kind of redundant. It's nice, but it's kind of redundant. Looking at the modifiers for it, we have Enhanced Steel Grasp, which also makes enemies vulnerable for 2.5 seconds, which isn't bad. And then your optionals, Fighter's Steel Grasp, if it damages an enemy, gain Berserking for 2 seconds, which is kind of the plan. Or Warrior Steel Grasp, which gains an additional charge. I'm going with Death Blow. Attempt a killing strike, dealing 752 damage to enemies in front of you. If this kills an enemy, its cooldown is reset. You're looking at your modifiers. Enhanced Death Blow deals 100% increased damage to bosses. Oh, yes. And then our optionals, Warrior's Death Blow, if it damages at least 1 enemy, gain Berserking for 3 seconds. Or Fighter's Death Blow. If Death Blow damages at least 1 enemy, gain 20 Fury. This is a hard decision to make. If you're building a straight Berserking build, then you're probably going to want to go with the Berserking. But if you use Whirlwind, you're probably going to want Fighter's Death Blow any way you can to build Fury. Alright, moving on. We get to our ultimates. The ultimate I choose for this one I'm going with Wrath of the Berserker. It's 58-second cooldown. Whoa. Explode into rage, knocking back surrounding enemies and gaining Berserking and Unstoppable for 5 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, dealing direct damage with basic skills, grants Berserking for 5 seconds. Hell yeah. Looking at the modifiers, you have Prime Wrath of the Berserker. While Wrath of the Berserker is active, gain 20% increased movement speed and 20 increased Fury generation by 30%. Yes. And then finally, Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. While it's active, every 50 Fury you spend increases Berserk's damage bonus by 25%. So, yes, it's fun to generate Fury, but let's spend it with Whirlwind, yeah? And then finally, we get to our key passive. We have Unconstrained, increased Berserk's maximum duration by 5 seconds, and increases damage bonus by 25%. Nice. Walking Arsenal, which we're probably not going to do, or Unbridled Rage. Core skills deal 135% increased damage, but plus double the Fury. That, oof. You're not doing a straight Berserker Rage, probably want to go with Unbridled Rage. Yeah, it's going to make everything more expensive, but with all the Fury generation we have, that should help. Now, this is obviously a Fury generation build. A don't piss me off build, I guess you could say. Alright, let's explore some of the map, see what we can find. Yes, we are looking for trouble. And yes, it automatically took out the axe again. It appears to be, me, that the axe is the best of the weapons. Yeah. And this is pretty much a fun build to do if you're just lazy, don't really want to do much to accomplish a lot. Come on, critters, you gotta be here somewhere. And there's your one. Alright. There's your finisher right there. Right? Now what happens if you don't finish? You'll get a fair amount of damage, but now you got that cool.
I'm low on fury.
As you can see, with Unbridled Rage,
I'm out of fury.
your fury doesn't last.
I don't have enough fury. I'm not ready yet. I'm low on fury.
Alright, so you get a rough idea as to how this one works. And not gonna, yeah, and let's be honest, that's pretty nice looking, right? Got two more builds I want to show you. First one's going to be a slight modification of what we just did, but we're just going to scrap it all and start again. One, because I got the gold too, in case you haven't seen. Just a bit shy of a mil, right? So we're going to refund all again. Doesn't really cost me that much, honestly. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a straight Berserker build. Right? First we're going to look to see if anybody's got straight Berserking. If we don't, we're going to go back to lunch. Because we can get it. Now we're going to look at every single one that can give us Berserking. Alright? If I remember right, Upheaval does so. Yeah. Grab that. Now we're going to move down here. We're still going to take that instead. That's pretty universally awesome. And then, look here. Did one of these have Berserking attached to them? Okay, apparently not. So, where was it, the shop? Yeah. So since we're going straight Berserker, we're just taking all Berserk things. We're going to take the Fortify, because we need some form of protection here. Well, more than that. Now remember what I said before, Steel Grasp should keep to Berserking. And yes, we're choosing everything to Berserk with. Going back to Wrath of the Berserker. Now I'm going to choose Unconstrained. Increase Berserk's maximum duration by 5 seconds, as I just said before. Alright? We'll go this way this time. We're going to look for more trouble to get into. Now you can see how a straight berserking build will work. Now in this case, since we haven't used since we're not using much in the way of movement, that's why we have and that was upheaval right there, even though I missed. Got a bit more range than I thought. More of a tone than a lot. The whole premise of berserking is to do more damage with your basic attacks. And periodically, use that one there to area attacks. Alright, so you get the rough idea. You already saw Wrath of the Berserkers. Okay, so that's basically, that's the Berserker bit in a nutshell. And now for the final one, which is the Weapon Master build. This one becomes this one is a lot more micromanagey than the others. Alright. And this one's going to probably take the most advantage of your expertises and everything. So here's what we're going to do. Alright, so you have options here. You can go with Bash, which works either your blunt dual wield or your two-handed mace. Or you have Frenzy, which works dual wield. And we're going to go with Frenzy. You only really need one basic attack. We're choosing Frenzy because it's a bit faster, and it's kind of like Flurry from the Rogue. Alright, modifiers and aim. So, yeah, unleash a rapid flurry of blows, dealing 196 damage with each pair of hits. If Frenzy hits an enemy, its attack speed is increased by 20% for 3 seconds up to 60%. That'd be Frenzy's attack speed, not yours. No, not the enemy's. Look at the modifiers. Enhanced Frenzy. While Frenzy is granting 60% bonus attack speed, it also generates 2 additional Fury. Cool. Looking at the options, you have Combat Frenzy, which gains 8% damage reduction for each stack of Frenzy you currently have, or Battle Frenzy. While berserking, your other skills gain 5% attack speed for each stack of Frenzy you have. We're going to go with Combat Frenzy. Now let's look at Bash anyway. Generates 10 Fury. And bash the enemy with your weapon, dealing 20 to 39 damage. After bashing enemies 4 times, your next bash is stunned for a second in an order. This increases to 2 seconds with a two-handed weapon. The modifiers are Enhanced Bash, damaging a stunned enemy with bash, granting 10% base life as a fortify. Double this amount when using a two-handed weapon. That's not bad. Then your other options are Battle Bash, damaging a stunned enemy with bash generates an additional 3 Fury or 4 with a two-handed weapon. Combat Bash, after critically striking 4 times with bash using a two-handed weapon, your next core or weapon mastery skill will equal an hour. Which isn't bad, but I like speed. And now we're going to look at core skills here. You have Hammer of the Ancients, or you have Double Swing. Now, I would highly recommend if you're doing a Weapon Master build, if you're choosing Frenzy, I would go with Hammer of the Ancients, or if you're going with Bash, I would choose Double Swing, just to keep that balance. Alright, so here we go, Hammer of the Ancients. Slam your hammer down with the Fury of the Ancients, dealing 325 damage to a concentrated area. The thing about the Weapon Master build, you need prime weapons. Enhance that with the Hammer of the Ancients. Gain 3% more Fury for 5 seconds. Reach the enemy damaged by Hammer of the Ancients down 10 times. Or Violent Hammer of the Ancients. And then you have Violent Hammer of the Ancients. After overpowering, you deal 3% more damage for 5 seconds. That's basically a 3% chance. Or Hammer of the Ancients deals a 1% additional damage for each point of Fury you had when using it. Well, considering you have a max of 100 Fury, there's something there about that. Okay. A Double Swing, if we decide to go that route, sweep your weapons from opposite directions, deal 26 damage with each weapon, enemies brought in the center, damaged by both. Modifiers, if Double Swing damages a stunned or knockdown enemy, gain 25 Fury. Optionals are Furious Double Swing, casting Double Swing while berserking, gain grants 2 additional seconds. Or Violent Double Swing, hanging an enemy with both hits of Double Swing makes them vulnerable. Second. Moving on. Defenses. You know where I'm going with this. That's not changing with anything. Now let's look at the brawl and now your options that you have. I think you already know which one I'm going to go with. We'll get to, we're gonna get to this one here. Okay. Arsenal selection. You can either auto-select it, it'll just automatically choose your best weapon. Or we can dual wield it, bludgeon it, or we can go with the two-handed slashing weapon here because we don't have a skill yet for that. So we can keep everything balanced. Remember, you're a weapon master, so you gotta pull out each time. That doesn't seem weird. Alright, looking at the weapon mastery skills. We have charge. We have, so we do have our advancing one. We could go with rupture again, because it does require a slashing weapon. You know what? I think we're going to do that. Because that gives us our slash, we have our dual, and we have our blunt. Okay, enhance rupture. And we're going to go with healing, because healing is always good. And now we get to the ultimate, which is where this build is kind of centered around. That's Iron Maelstrom. 58-second cooldown, activate 3 times to attach chains to each of your weapons and perform an attack. First, your two-handed bludgeoning weapon slams into the ground, dealing 351 damage to stunning enemies for 2 seconds. Next, your two-handed slashing weapon swipes in front of you, dealing 117 damage and inflicting 703 bleeding over 5 seconds. And finally, your dual-wield swing around you, dealing 190 per hit. So basically, you got to hit it 3 times to get everything going, and it goes crazy. Look at the modifiers. Prime Iron Maelstrom gives a 10% increased critical strike chance and deals 20% increased critical strike damage. Oh yeah. And then finally, Supreme, dealing direct damage to an enemy after swapping weapons, reduces Iron Maelstrom's cooldown by 1 second. Which is why I have 3 things chosen. Okay? And then finally, the key passive is going to be Walking Arsenal. Dealing direct damage with a two-handed bludgeoning, two-handed slashing, or dual weapon grants 10% increased damage for 6 seconds. When all 3 damage bonuses are active, you gain an additional 15% increased damage. Dual, blunt, anything, and slash. So we've got the gamut covered. Alright? So, what does this build look like in action? Shall we find out? Why it sent us out that way? That's silly. Sometimes the follow the map marker is just weird. Hey, we have an event. That could be fun. Set it up and see what we got here.
I don't have enough fuel. I must wait. I must wait. Not ready yet.
Love will be pleased.
That's okay. Not always well.
I need more fury.
I must wait.
Okay, so this can stand a bit of refining. Alright, so we're going to walk back a few things here. I got the right idea. One thing I don't like is actually that. I'm just going to go back to Death Blow. Actually, no. We're going to go with Steel Grasp again, just to reel things in. I'm going to grab an extra charge with that. And we're going to walk everything else back. Now we're going to change up. Now we actually do have each one chosen. It's going to be a little more useful, but yeah, as you can see, maybe that's looking at that. Yeah, Rupture is kind of really specialized for one kind of build.
I'm low on fury.
Alright, so now you get a rough idea of how this is actually supposed to work. As I said, there's a good bit of micromanaging with this. Not my cup of tea. Although that was kind of nice looking. So there you have it, alright? That's pretty much everything in a nutshell there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot from these videos. The next one will be the last of the instructional. This is going to be a guide to starting out, goofy little tips here or there. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest and greatest as they come in and to help this channel grow. This is Big Dave, the Middle-Aged Gamer. This was Diablo 4 out of Barbarian. And we'll see you next time.